Here is everything we know about the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC so far. The official trailer for the DLC was finally unveiled a few weeks ago, and since then we have had several exclusive interviews with none other than Hidetaka Miyazaki himself. So let's dive straight in. First and foremost, the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC will be released on Friday the 21st of June 2024. And while this release date is further down the line than I both hoped and expected, it does offer the added bonus of giving us Elden Ring players plenty of time to prepare a new or old character for the Shadow of the Erdtree adventure. As depicted in the recent trailer and as discussed with Hidetaka Miyazaki in his recent interviews, the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC will focus primarily on Miquella, who up until now has been safely slumbering away inside his egg cocoon located in Moguin's palace. For a quick recap, Miquella is the twin brother of Malenia, and the son of both Radagon and Queen Marika. He was born cursed to never grow into an adult, which led him to search for ways to both cure his and Malenia's curses under the beliefs of the Golden Order. However, this ultimately failed, and Miquella then went on to create the Haligtree in the hopes of rivaling the Erdtree. He cocooned himself in the Haligtree, but was kidnapped by his half-brother Mohg, Lord of Blood. This then leads us to the DLC. As stated by Miyazaki himself, the setting of Shadow of the Erdtree is a brand new land. It's a brand new map separate from the lands between. It is a land that is overshadowed by the particular shadow of the Erdtree, as opposed to the Erdtree in the lands between. In the Land of Shadows, Miquella awaits the return of his promised lord. The Land of Shadows, a place obscured by the Erdtree, where the goddess Marika first set foot, is a land plagued in an unsung battle, set ablaze by Messmer's flame. It was to this land that Miquella departed, divesting himself of his flesh, his strength, his lineage, of all things golden. In the DLC, we will literally follow the footsteps of Miquella, in the same fashion that we followed the Sites of Graces in the base game, in order to find out what Miquella is up to in the Land of Shadows. It has also been confirmed during his interview with Famitsu that there will be multiple NPCs that are also following Miquella's footsteps too. Some friend, some foe. In addition to the DLC being focused around Miquella, it will also revolve somewhat around Queen Marika, as we learn what she did in the Land of Shadow, and what led Miquella to follow her there. Personally, I do believe that from a story perspective, Miquella won't be too happy to find out that our Tarnished player has murdered his entire family, so there is a pretty good chance that Miquella could end up being the big bad boss of the DLC. Miyazaki has confirmed in several interviews that George R.R. Martin did not create any brand new material for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. However, that being said, he did say, as for George Martin's involvement, essentially it is the same as it was with the base game. The DLC Shadow of the Erdtree is based on one part of that original mythos that he penned for us. It is not a brand new mythos that he's written specifically for Shadow of the Erdtree. He has not created something new which informed the design of the DLC. It's simply another part of the original story that we thought fit to tell as a new expansion. So while nothing new has been created, we will still be able to enjoy that same in-depth lore that the rest of Elden Ring was based upon. There will be upwards of 10 new bosses in the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, alongside a whole host of new enemies too, from an enemy depicting a giant flaming basket of dead bodies who was a really gruesome weapon used in a war fought in the Land of Shadows, to worms with arms that literally eat people. The most noteworthy character from the trailer is Messmer the Impaler, and according to Miyazaki, Messmer is another key figure in the DLC. He is a fiery character who is an important element of Shadow to him, which is a key theme throughout the DLC. Regarding this, Miyazaki states, at the end of the trailer it shows Messmer sat in this throne-like chair, and for people who've played the game may recognise this throne to be one of the ones from the boss room when you battle Morgoth. This represents the thrones at the base of the Erdtree, and it's supposed to symbolise that Messmer stands on equal footing to these other demigods and children of Marika, who sat around in these thrones and held the rooms of the Erdtree. So he is an important figure who rivals these other demigods, and as you play the DLC, you will learn a little about why he wasn't featured in the Legends of the Erdtree, the Lands Between. You'll realise why he exists in this shadow, the Land of Shadow. It is hard to ignore the fact that Messmer also has the signature red locks, just like Malenia and Radagon. Could this be a small indicator that Messmer is another child of Radagon and Marika, and therefore a brother to Miquella and Malenia? I guess we'll find out in June. For all our Malenia fans out there, yes, the DLC will include optional bosses who are tuned in a similar way. But that being said, the overall difficulty of the DLC won't all be like that. In the IGN interview, Miyazaki had this to say when asked how they approached the difficulty with the DLC. Our general approach to difficulty has of course not changed to Elden Ring. We wanted to create a challenging experience that tests the players and that gives them a feeling of satisfaction and accomplishment when they get through these struggles. However, we do want to stress that there's still a freedom of approach and a breadth of strategy to these encounters, and that means both how you approach them if you want to face these challenges, or come back to them later and circumvent them and find another way around and come back when you're ready. This same philosophy is taken in Shadow of the Erdtree. One brand new element that is unique to the DLC will be similar to the attack power in another From Software game, Sekiro. On this, Miyazaki shared with Famitsu, this was prepared for the freedom to challenge threats that I mentioned earlier, and it allows you to say things like, this boss is tough, so let's explore another area and try again after becoming stronger. This makes it easier to experience even at high levels. On the other hand, by suppressing the increase in offensive power, players will be able to experience the challenge of challenging threats at a lower level. So adding this extra stat and mechanic will mean that both low-level players and players who have already ran the Elden Ring Gauntlet multiple times will all have the ability to either have a challenging or smoother experience during the DLC. I think this is a fantastic move by From Software in making the DLC as accessible to as many players as possible on day one. Unlike the original Dark Souls mind-boggling quest for accessing the DLC, the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC will be accessible from Miquella's Cocoon in Mogwin's Palace. As the DLC is set on an entirely separate, physically separate map, it will require the player to warp to and from the DLC area. Once you have entered the DLC area, you will be able to freely transfer back and forth between the base game and the DLC. As confirmed by Miyazaki in his interview with Famitsu, he stated that the timeline will be the same as the main story. It is not set in the distant past or future. This is a big surprise to most fans, as anyone that's played From Software's Soulsborne games will be used to their DLCs taking the player on a timey-wimey adventure, with the likes of Dark Souls' Artorias of the Abyss DLC taking the player back a whopping 100 years to face off against the main man Artorias himself. The size of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC will be comparable, if not larger, than the area of Limgrave from the base game. Initially at face value, for me, this description of the DLC being around the same size as Limgrave was disappointing. But when I really think about it, the scale of the map doesn't dictate the scale of the overall playthrough. When asked about the structure of the DLC, Miyazaki said the following: "This is going to be structured in a similar way. As you said, with open field maps, with large-scale legacy dungeons, and with small to medium-scale legacies as well. So we hope players will enjoy the same sense of scale and sense of adventure throughout that structure." But on top of this, he also stated, "We wanted to go more in depth and bring a denser and richer level design, which brings these types of layouts together a little more seamlessly." So, this sounds like we will be getting more interconnected level design that we know and love from other games within From Software's back catalogue, which can surely only be a good thing. So with all this in mind, even if the surface area is only comparable to Limgrave, it will be fully fleshed out with a whole lot of threats to tackle. And if that doesn't settle your worries, he also stated, "When it comes to the volume of DLC, it is clearly larger than the DLC for the Dark Souls series or Bloodborne. I have no doubt that this will be our biggest DLC to date. Plus, in true Miyazaki fashion, we have a brand new poison swamp area to trudge through too." Yay. As per usual with From Software's DLCs, the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC will be jam-packed with plenty of new weapons, equipment, and skills for us all to try out. Plus, 8 new weapon categories have been added to the game to account for all the new weapon types coming to the DLC. There are 4 editions being released for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC: the Standard Edition, the Premium Bundle Edition, the Deluxe Edition, and the Collector's Edition. The Premium and Deluxe Edition offers some digital bonuses, while the Collector's Edition also has some physical bonuses. Pre-ordering any edition of the expansion will also give you access to a new in-game gesture straight away, but this can be obtained by playing through the DLC normally. The Standard Edition will cost £34.99 or $39.99 across all platforms, and this comes with just a digital copy of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. The Premium Bundle Edition includes a digital copy of the DLC, plus the digital art book and original soundtrack for the DLC. The price for this is £39.99 or $49.99 on Xbox and PC, but on PlayStation it's £44.99 or $49.99. So for some reason, UK gamers are being charged slightly more for this version on the PlayStation Store. The Deluxe Edition combines both the base Elden Ring game and the Premium Bundle Edition, so if you don't already own Elden Ring but want to dive in with the DLC included, then this is the version for you. This costs £84.99 or $99.99 across all platforms. And finally, there is the Collector's Edition. This includes the digital copy of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, an epic 46cm Mesmer the Impaler statue, a physical copy of the art book, and the digital soundtrack. However, this edition will cost a few bob. It is listed at £225 on the Bandai Namco store, but is currently out of stock, or it is available for £229.95 at the Game Station. In the US, this can be purchased for $250 on the Bandai Namco store, and currently is still in stock as of making this video. During his interview with IGN, on the topic of Elden Ring's future, Miyazaki was asked, "Do you envision this as the end of Elden Ring's story, or is there room for either more DLC or an Elden Ring 2 down the line?" Miyazaki responded with, "We don't want to say this is the end of the Elden Ring saga for now. I think we said a similar thing at the end of Dark Souls 3. We didn't want to flatten those possibilities or put a pin in them just at that time. And it's a similar story with Elden Ring. We don't want to discourage the possibility for that. There might be more ideas in the future. We don't have any current plans to make a second DLC or a sequel, but we definitely don't want to snuff out that possibility. We think that there could well be something in the future." So, while this isn't going to give us fans any hope right now of more content to come in the future, it isn't a definite no either. So I like to see it as a glass half full scenario. Either way, we still have a lot of Elden Ring content to look forward to very, very soon. And for now, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this rundown of all the official information we have regarding the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, and I hope, like me, you were excited to dive into it on the 21st of June 2024. Let me know in the comment section below what you are most looking forward to in the DLC, and if you have any tinfoil hat theories, I'd love to hear them all. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for even more Elden Ring content.